Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nick, and I'm the head of new markets here at the Precast division of StruSoft. And today I have the pleasure of hosting this webinar for you, of course, with the whopping title. Let me see if I can pronounce it without stumbling. How to 3D model and detail accurate shop drawings on time with Impact Precast. So today's webinar, just jumping straight into it, we have a rough agenda here. And the first thing we want to do is we want to look a little bit on detailing and 3D modeling your precast elements in Impact for CAD. We're looking at some walls, sandwich wall panels, slabs, Holochord, and a few other elements. And I'm going to be showing you a couple of different tools to use inside the Impact Precast software, such as automatic casted material templates and some other tools, of course, for automatic generating production drawings. And once we've done a little bit of a model, we've done some production drawings and gone through that, we're going to be exporting the project into an IFC file as well, so you can have that for project collaboration. So all of this will take approximately, I think, 30 to 45 minutes, so it's not going to be a long webinar, and I'll try to keep it as on point as possible. So without further ado, let's take a look at the software. So let's shut down these slides here. And what you see now on the screen here, this is you can look at me pointing, I'm pointing to the screen where I have it here. This is the Impact Project Manager. Right now I have an empty project here, which means I don't have any 3D model or anything like that right now, but we're going to be creating that today in today's webinar. So I'm not going to jump into a lot of technical details and explain how everything works. I'm just going to show you guys how it works and of course talk you through what I'm doing as well. So the first thing I want to do is, for me personally, I like to start on a floor plan and I like to do my 3D modeling there. In Impact, you can do it in the floor plan. You can also do it in elevations or any way you like actually. So first of all, let me just open the floor plan here. And what I have here is I've basically just put in an XREF here, just for some reference. Let's say this is an architect model, and usually this model is something we use here at StruSoft for demos, as we can create it into a building with multiple floors and these things. And I'm going to do that for you guys as well. So as you can see right now, what I've opened here is AutoCAD Architecture 2021. This can also be used with BricsCAD on BricsCAD. Today, I'm just using it with AutoCAD. So it's basically the same here. So what I want to do with this model here is I want to do some sandwich panels. I want to do some walls. I want to do some balcony slabs, maybe some Holochord as well, as mentioned before. And I'm just going to jump straight into it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to draw some walls. So I click my draw wall command, pick which type of wall I want to draw, and I can select the start point and draw the walls around. But instead of doing that today, I'm actually going to use this command called outline, which basically means that I select the wall I want to do, and I select the polyline for an outline. It asks me a couple questions. Do I want to delete the polyline, for example? Yes. What do I want the gap to be between the elements? And then again, what connection type do I want? You can see we have some different ones we can use. As a standard, I want to use this one I call in my software here, left, right, straight one. And now you can see it makes up this green thing, which symbolizes where did it find these borders there. And then what I can do is I can select where I want to split my elements. So I'll just be splitting here, and I'm not going to be too thorough about where I split, because at this point right now, where exactly I split is not the most important thing. Let's split it down here as well, and here. So basically, what I had the software do was take the corners, do them itself, and I just chose and selected where do I want to split the elements. So now you can see I have some elements. If I just go in and take a look in the asymmetric view here, you can see there are already some elements. They already have a height. This is what we call a wireframe view. But if I do select one of the elements, for example, and ask, I want to see it in solid, you will actually be seeing a lot more detail here. I'll be changing it back to wireframe though, because this is just the way I like to work. So basically, we have all the connections there. And then what I want to do now is I just want to add some windows and some openings. And I think that's going to be the most boring part of the webinar today, is just adding the windows and openings here. But anyway, to show you, it's rather quick, doesn't take a long time. So I want to use the name so it's easy for people reading the drawing. And I just want to pick where I actually want those windows. In this case, just like this here. So you can see now it makes them white. What does white mean? Well, it basically means that I'm inserting them into the model itself. And afterwards, I can attach them to the elements. And then if I move the elements and move something, they will follow the elements. And you can see I'm zooming a little bit here. And that's just to help myself, snapping a bit more precisely. So I'm adding a few windows here, just to going all the way around. I might as well just add all of them. And here I'm just using, in the CAD software I'm using, there's some different snap settings that you can set. So I'm just using the snap settings of the software itself here. And these were my F3, as you might notice here. I've written just some numbers, but this is basically just so I remember what are the windows I wanted to put on. I don't want to bore you guys with me sitting around finding out which windows fit where and so on, of course. It's basically just a click. And as you can see here, I actually placed this one wrong. So I'll just go ahead and move it. It used to be here instead, so it fits with the place. So I've added a lot of windows already. And I just want to add the last two types, a balcony door and an F21 window, I call it. And then I'll show you guys what it is I've actually done outside in the 3D model afterwards, of course. Balcony door here, 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 and lastly here. And then just the last windows. And I'm going to be using the one I call F21 for this one. And after that, that's basically all the doors and windows in my whole plan here. Here we go, and here we go. So if I now go to the isometric view again, you can now see these windows and doors in white, as I mentioned. And the next step I want to do is I want to add the windows into the elements themselves. So what I do is I select all the elements here, and I just simply click Add. And now the software asks me, should we update the placing of the lifts and the bracing anchors compared to the new center of gravity these gets? Because they automatically get lifters and bracing anchors when we draw them. And of course, I pick yes, because we wanted to update them according to the center of gravity. So now the software starts to move through the elements, adding the windows, adding the details around the windows. It's adding a bunch of stuff actually, and you'll be able to see exactly what it is it's adding afterwards when we actually create the shop drawings just in a few minutes here. So basically it's scanning around everything. What does it need to change? Moving the lifts around, moving the bracings around, and of course everything that's needed. The whole point here is, of course, we want the computer system to do as much as possible that it can for us. So now you see there's no more white. That means all of our windows are added into this here. So between these connections here, right now, I don't have anything. I want to connect these with wire loops. That's a very common thing to do here in Europe, to have these wire loop connections. And to do that, I have a casting material template. And I mentioned the casting material template in the intro before. But for example, I can take a selection of the elements, or all of the elements for that sake. Just say, yes, please select these and add my template. Here I have one I called wire loop. Click OK. And what it does now is it scans all the external perimeters of the elements, finds out how many wire loops should be put in, and it'll put them in 3D and the number that is needed to add the wire loops. And you can see it working through it here, of course. And it's already finished just while I was talking a little bit. Now you can see there are some wire loops as well. Again, just to show you guys here, we'll jump into solid again, just to see, all the solid things we have. And we can jump back to wireframe again. So that's what we're really getting here. So basically, the walls I have here, the sandwich panels I have here that are up here are ready for production drawings, but not quite yet, because what I want to do is I want to add some solid walls as well. Let me do the same thing and just draw a wall instead now. And I'll zoom in here just to draw the wall where I want it to be. And here where I start the wall is actually not important, because we'll get the software to join it together for us afterwards. So you can see, for example, this gap is not really important for me at this point. So we'll go through, add it up, and just add these walls around. So the same thing's happening here as what I did before with the sandwich panels, just with the solid walls instead. So you can see I've added them here. Some of them are red. The reason why they're red is because it says, well, you can't really make panels this big. If I hover the mouse over it, it says this has an invalid production length. Your factory, Nick, is not allowed to make solid walls more than 9 meters. So basically I can split using our regular split command here. Just saying, well, then split the wall panel here. Use a connection. I really don't have to do that right now. And the same thing, again, I want to do this wall here as well. So we're actually building our model now. But at the same time, now they're green, as you can see, at the same time as we're building our model, we're also building the shop drawings. And that's, of course, what I want to show you just in a couple minutes. So now we have something I haven't really made connections for. Of course, we have a function called connect. Here we have 3 pieces. This connection, of course, this won't work. Now we've added this wall. Let me just select the 3 pieces, select the connection I want. So now we can get some different connections here. It'll suggest some different connections for me. And here it should actually select the connection I want to have here. So let's just get back to that here. It doesn't show the exact correct one I want to use. And now you can see why when I zoom in here. Can you see that? Because I snapped wrong in my AutoCAD. So I was just talking about the snapping. This doesn't want to connect the wall into the middle of the other wall. It has like a rule for, of course, you need some rules to be able to do these connections here. So now when I do this instead, now it will show me you have these 2 types you can do. You can do a wire loop, you can do plate. And for you guys, of course, to use the software, you can do your own connections. I did the wire loop before. I want to do the wire loop again here. Some rules about how many we want. I can put a center distance in, which I did with the others, or I can just put a number of in. This case, I will select it's okay to put in these 2 here. When I click OK now again, it'll make the connection for me. So here the same thing where it scans it through, it corrects all the lengths, it makes the indents it's supposed to make, and then it asks me, do you want to join more walls? And of course I want to. So we want to connect, for example, the corners of the walls. We want to connect these here, where we have 3 walls here in this case instead. Where do you want it to be? Like this. Now we did the welding plates instead. I'll apply, I'll click update all. We got that connection instead. We continue our way through the model, doing the connections. You know, basically, this is the time it takes. Do you want it to connect here like I did over here? Do you want it to connect at the bottom instead? How do you really want it to be? Here where we have 2 sandwich panels again in this wall as well, we can make another one. And maybe we want to make something like this, where this one joins in. It will show us the detail, the rough of how it suggested to be in this case. And again, it corrects everything through again with these welding plates in this example here. So I'm not going to finish this whole thing completely because I'll just bore you guys. So we'll leave the connections as this. As you can see, I'll just need to go through the whole thing. We just start at one corner and go through the connections. So it's pretty simple as that actually. So if I take a look at the 3D model here, now you can see we start to get a little bit more things in. And let me go back to the top here again. And what we can do, of course, now is we can start to do some slabs, some holochords. But before going to slabs and holochords, I'll take a break from the modeling to go into the actual shop drawings, just not to only model and then do this thing at the end. I will just try to change the pace up a little bit for you guys, of course. So what I will do is I need some numbers. I need some element marks on these elements. As you can see, this is unmarked, unmarked, unmarked. That basically means it's not saved yet. We haven't given it an element number. To make a drawing, of course, we need to give it an element number. So what I do here is I click, I want to save my walls. And now I can select which order I want to save them in to completely control the numbering of the elements. In my case here, I want the computer to work for me again. So I'll just click all sandwich walls. Where should we start? Well, let's start at 001. And it'll then work its way through, scanning if any elements are the exact same and so on. So it'll really optimize the way that the numbering gets done. But otherwise, number 1, it'll start from what it sees first because it's a computer, of course. If we want to control it, again, we just pick the order we want to save them in. So here now, we got some element numbers as well on our elements. And I can do the same thing again with my solid wall panels. So we'll take wall instead, wall panel 1, and do the same thing. Now these are saved as well. So when they're saved, that means now they're in the impact database. And I know I'm going through this very quickly, but I started here in the project manager where I was talking about having a 3D model for project management here. We didn't have anything yet then, but now you can take a look at this. We have this nice 3D model. So this is what we've done so far in 15 minutes while I've been talking. So you can see it's really, really fast here. But that's the modeling. You know, what does it matter? The modeling is fast if everything else is not fast. So let's just select something here and create some actual shop drawings. So I want to generate shop drawings. I want to generate somewhere have a few problem areas as well. So this one will have a really large opening in it. We'll just take this one as well. We can take this one as well, of course. So now I want to generate drawings for these 3 elements here. And it'll give me a suggestion for the drawing name, usually That's fine. I want the same drawing name as the element mark itself. And now it creates 2 drawings for each element, each of these sandwich panels here. So basically it creates a main view or a main drawing view, and it creates also like a reinforcement drawing view that I can go in and have a look at as well. So for these 3 elements, it'll now create these 6 drawings. And it's finished while I was talking, for example. Let's open 2 of them. These 2 are almost the same, so I'll just take these 2 instead. So what you see now when it's opening up here is basically I get a model view which consists of every part of the drawing, which is fine. But again, I need something I can give to my guys in the production hall. So if I go into main, here we have a drawing now. And this drawing here has details for the ends, wherever I want it. It has elevations, it has sections, it has measurements on the sections, it has the casting materials, numbering system for the casting materials as well, and a list of the casting materials also, as well as a list of the holes. So here, there's no reinforcement here, not because there isn't any reinforcement in the element, but because I had a drawing with 2 reinforcement views. So here it's showing the standard reinforcement we put in this type of element. So let me just take a look at the other element here. So in this element, we get the same thing. It's a completely different element, but everything still seems to fit on the drawing. And this is because, again, the computer is working for us. We wanted to do these things automatically. We go into reinforcement. We have the standard reinforcement here again. You might be thinking, what are these lines here? Well, basically they're viewports. So if I want something bigger or smaller, I can just take and drag these viewports, of course. I'm not going to drag these because I've set them up so they're the same size always, and they scale up and down to the sizes. So just before jumping on to the next things, of course, maybe we want to do one of the elements that had both a door and a window in it, of course. And let's pick this one here, have it create a drawing of this one here. Just pressing OK. But one of the main things here is, take a look at the finish of the drawings, how far we've gotten in this short amount of time. The system actually just does this for us. And basically, while we're working through the model, we are filling into the system the information that we actually need to create these things. So here you can see, here are more things than on the others. If I go into main, looks the same, but it scaled the drawing down a little bit to fit these 2 sections. It automatically created a section in the door and automatically created a section in the window as well. Furthermore, the door and the window in this case have automatic reinforcement in them. So that means that the reinforcement is automatically put in an A3 and an A5, the placement, and here as well, the details of how to actually make the A3 and the A5. I might think this is a little small for me. I was talking about the viewports before. If I stretch them a little bit, make it bigger, something like this here, for example, and I redraw the drawing, it'll update, it'll fill out, it'll take the space that it needs to maximize these windows that I've created. So now you can see now this became bigger. So you can just work your way through the project like that quite easily and simply. Jumping back to this one here, I showed some automatic reinforcement. What if we want to put in reinforcement ourselves? Well, there is like a whole tab and a whole reinforcement module as well for that. We can draw single bars in pretty much any shape imaginable, of course, which comes in handy. They get these different shape codes so you can keep track of them. Or we can use what's called groups, as I had automatically put on one of the windows before. So let's say I want to draw a group on this one. I have one here, which has a little bit lock in the middle of the reinforcement. And I can choose wherever I want it in the element actually. So now you can see it snapping down here. I don't want it to snap. So we can take it from here to here, for example. You have some different options. Now you can see you get the reinforcement there. Before, we had a number A3 and an A5. We don't have that yet. That's because now we want the computer to do something for us again. We wanted to save it. We wanted to create automatic drawings on it and so on. So what I do is I click, please do this for me. Again, the whole point is to get your computer to work for you. So you just pick the solution you want and the system will do it for you. This one is now called A6. Of course, these different reinforcements can't have the same name, so we'll just change the name of these. If I go into reinforcement with this one, now we have the A6, and it'll line up all of the reinforcement, everything that we need in here as well, and show it here. Our main geometry drawing, it doesn't get crowded because the reinforcement is not in here. If, for example, we have a wall panel, let's take one of the wall panels. We could take this wall panel 8, just to show you something different. The sandwich panels are typically the most complicated ones to do, of course, to have all the drawings. There's so many details, insulation, and so on. The solid wall panels are a little bit more simple. And usually, or often, you can get away with just having, of course, one drawing on those. You don't need all the extra. Here it's maybe more okay to fit it into one piece of paper. So we'll go in here. I take a look at the element. This window down here, that's for the reinforcement groups, just as we had for the other one. But other than that, you can see we have the 2 wire loops that we put in before. We have the ones protruding from the side and from the front of the panel. And here we have the 3D. And in this one, it's set to show the mesh as a full, what's it called? A full 3D view of the mesh itself, which on the sandwich panels, I just ticked that off. I only wanted to see the symbol for it not to be crowded too much. If I zoom in, I can see the wire loops, the placing of them as well here, of course. And we can make this one bigger if we wanted to the guys in the production, or make a page only for this one, of course. So basically this covers our walls and our sandwich panels. And for a lot of you guys, you're not just doing walls, you're not just doing sandwich panels, you might be doing slabs, holochords, and so on. So let's just do a slab as well. So I want to draw a slab. I have a 19 centimeter slab here. I want to do just one. I want to do it in this shape here. And if you are very careful and looking here, what I'm doing is it says to select the polyline. So basically this is just an AutoCAD polyline. And I don't want to spend any time showing you guys how to make a polyline in AutoCAD. You probably all know. I want an end on the balcony here around the edges, like this. It's allowed to erase the polyline. And in the same case as with my walls, actually, I want to create this slab here, and I want to create a drawing of it. The complete same workflow as with the walls. The difference is just, what type of elements are we doing? How do they look? What is preset and so on. When I look at the drawing for this one here instead, you can see the same configuration as for the sandwich panels. I just want the mesh selection here, but here in this case, we put the mesh on top or the reinforcement on top of the actual geometry drawing. But again, it's completely the same. My rounded edge, I have a radius. The rest cast-in items like the lifters and so on are measured. There is a reinforcement list. There is a cast-in material list. There is a weight, there is a volume, there is everything we need on the element, of course, here. Jumping back, as I promised you a lot of things in a relatively short amount of time, I want to do some holochords as well. So I'm selecting my different definition of holochord here. Basically, this is a section. So any holochord you have, you can just add it to the software in here. Here we can draw with windows, with polylines or points. In my case, let me just take a window. Let me just see if I can snap properly. Notice that I'm snapping on the insides of the element, and then afterward, the software asks me about a support length. I say okay to the 80 millimeters as that is standard in here. And then I can select where I want the Holochord to start. And the software will show me how it will cut and which element it will cut, which for me in this case is completely fine. And now if you notice here, I have a couple of recesses and I haven't added those. And this one is actually not a recess, but I need to shorten this Holochord down. But before I do that, what if you have lifters in your Holochord? What if you have nipped ends? Well, this basically, again, this is all about setup. This is all about how you actually want it to be as standard. So we can select these called end caps in here in the software and just select nipped ends with a hole in as well. So we can see that, or we can change it to just a nipped end with no of these fillings or holes. And I can even go in here and say, well, I actually want to also have, we'll take the 60 here, some lifters in the elements. So you can see how fast it puts it in all the elements in this case here. I'm adding my recess, in this case here for a slab. I want it to be cut out rectangular, something like this in this case here. And I will take the Holochord here and add this one. Now I'm going to make this one, but I'm going to make it as a hanger detail. So we'll do like this instead and add the hanger detail. So you can see again here, it's just like before, basically with the walls, with the slab, everything we can get the software to do we want it to do. And again, with the fear of boring you guys a little bit, because I'm doing the same thing, tend to be doing the same thing again and again, creating the elements, saving them, creating the shop drawings. But it is like that. It's like 1, 2, 3. Make the element, save it, create the shop drawing. So let's take, for example, this one, and this one. We could also take them all, of course. And as before, with the slab, with the sandwich panels, with the solid wall panels, it creates a drawing. I can open all 3 at once if I want as well. It creates a view with measurements on. It creates a 3D view of the slab, and it creates these different details here for what we want. And we can zoom in here on the 3D to see what is actually in precise and detail it is if you have a hard time reading the drawing. But again here, it's zooming out to fit the scale perfectly. If we go through the drawings, it measures out the drawing and the element like it's needed to be, puts in the recesses, dimensions the recesses, makes a list of casting material volume. Everything is completely the same again as before. Let me go in here to my project manager 3D model again. And let's just change there we go, to none. So here we have the slab here, so Holochords here, or sandwich panels, or solid walls. I'm not going to be making more Holochords or slabs here in this case. I think you all got the point of how it actually works. We have made the drawings on the elements. And in this case here, I have a building that has multiple floors. So I want to create these multiple floors as well. So what I do is I copy elements and element marks. The reason for the marks is because I want the floor next floor to have a different element mark. I can even copy the shop drawings as well. So it'll automatically make shop drawings on the second floor as well. And I click OK here. So basically now, I don't know how long that took, a couple of seconds. Now we have 2 floors. So here in this 3D model here, I've set it to relatively high amount of detail. So that's why it's loading in like it is. Now we have these 2 floors. We can do the exact same thing again. Elements and element marks, copy. We have the 3 floors, elements and element marks copied. And let me just show you one thing from inside the project manager here as well. So now you're following the webinar, and I hope you get the feeling that this software is built specifically for precast. And that's of course because it is. And this year we're actually celebrating our 30th year of the Impact software. So this is our version 16.xx of the actual software. That means we've done 16 major versions in the last 30 years and minor releases every 3 months actually as well. So the software gets updated all the time. So we have an element here now. And just as before, if I zoom in, you can see the numbers 009, 1009, 2009. So that's the point of having these numbers as we go. So the project manager now, just to say a little bit about that, is a very powerful tool for the whole project or for the whole building or for all the buildings. That might be several buildings as well, because you can see straight away when something is wrong. So here we zoom in. This looks fine. This is how I wanted it. This as well. But, oh, I didn't make the connection here. I didn't make the connections here. They're overlapping. So the project manager can sit here next to it in a free viewer version of this as well and say, wait, WP2007 and 2009 are clashing. And the drafters can then take a look at that. And of course, inside the AutoCAD model itself, we can also see this overlap here. But basically, it's about having it visual at all times, of course. So I'm running through this a little bit quickly. That's because I promised you guys that we'll keep it to 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. So basically, we're getting all these drawings here. If I want to print out the drawings, you select how many elements do I want to print. And you go in here, you say drawings. And now I'm not allowed to print here, of course, because I don't have drawings on all of it. But basically, you press plot. And then you can print all of your drawings directly to your printer or to a PDF to send for approval to a client, for example. But basically, other than that, these elements here are ready for the planners to start working. They're ready for the guys to start putting on erection sequencing numbers, to put on erection dates, to work your way backwards to when you have to have finished the elements. And for these things, of course, I'm not covering them in this webinar here, but I'm just opening the website now. We have a whole bunch of impact webinars if you guys are interested. I'm not going to play the webinars now. I just want to click. But you can see here we did another webinar back in December where we have erection planning. So there you'll see crane planning, erection date planning, automatic date planning, back to when the drawings need to be finished and so on, and a whole bunch of other webinars. If you're thinking, how do I find them? Well, basically it's pretty easy. You just go in to YouTube and you write StruSoft. First thing it'll find is the StruSoft channel. This software is called Impact, so you just find Impact. And there are a lot of videos for you guys to look at if you're interested, of course. So just jumping back to our model here. I promised you guys an IFC file, so we don't want to forget that, of course. So what I want to do now is I'm going in to my little grid here, going into 3D. I want to create a new 3D drawing. I'll just call it IFC. And now we get a nice empty drawing. And in here, I can click a button and I can say, I want my whole building one to be created in solids that are fit for IFC. So it asks you now, do you want to create casting materials as well? It depends on what your client needs. Does he need to see the wire loops, the lifters, and so on, or doesn't he? He probably needs to see if it clashes with something else. In this case, we can, for example, say no. So you'll just get the elements themselves, actually. And now it's generating, you can see down here at the bottom, it's generating our plan, but it's not actually generating only one plan. It's generating all of the elements that we just made here. And we can count the elements here just by checking in here in the summary. It'll make 126 elements now. So we can check, let me just go back to the IFC here. We can check the time, how long does it take for that actual file to be generated with 126 elements. But basically we can see it might be 75% finished now within, I don't know how long past, maybe 20 seconds. So this is not something that takes a long time compared to what it is we actually get here. But again, it's the beauty of a live webinar. You guys can see exactly how long everything takes to do. So now we have it. If I go in here, we have a 3D solid. It's viewing in wireframe right now, but that's just how I set my AutoCAD up personally to do. So in the IFC, before we create an IFC to go into an IFC viewer, I can add property sets in Impact. And here, it's basically everything by who checked the drawing, who designed it, what's the drawing name, to when are the elements supposed to be delivered. So I have a lot of data down here: planned delivery date, erection sequence, production date, and so on. So you can get a lot of information here that you can send to your partners. I'll just take the standard in this one, just add that standard property set with basically, I think, half of the information available. I haven't planned anything yet anyways. And then I will export this into an actual IFC file here. So we just call this project IFC, and we call the file IFC as well. And I'll just put it on my desktop just so it's easier for us. Click Save here, click Export. So before we created the elements, we had the Impact software generate the elements for us. Now we're putting them out into an IFC file. And if I minimize AutoCAD now, and let's double click our IFC file just to open that one in an IFC viewer. This could be any IFC viewer, of course. This is just a free IFC viewer I have. So here, basically, we have these elements that we can now send to our client as well to view in IFC. If you click an element here, like I clicked the sandwich panel, sorry, I scrolled 2001. I'll just make this one a little bit higher here. You can see it has some IDs, UIDs, but it also has some different impact things like material in the inner panel, outer panel, and insulation, the thicknesses as well, so your clients can see this. So basically, now we spent 44 minutes. So this is very close to the time frame I set for myself. But basically, this is the flow through. We created a building with 3 floors. We did some Holochord, we did some sandwich panels, we did some slabs, some balcony slabs. We created shop drawings for all the types of elements as well. And what we also did was we also created an IFC file for our customer to view. So of course, I haven't completed everything in full, but I think that's pretty great for 45 minutes. And one thing that there always is, and I need to remind myself of course, is when you prepare something like this, or if you prepare something like this, you guys don't know if I spend a bunch of time preparing something that'll only work in this situation, of course. So what if we do instead some Holochords? I'll just make some next to the others. And I'll just make a window again, just to keep it simple. But this is not supposed to be square. This is supposed to have a different shape, something like this maybe. Well, then again, it's the same thing. We have tools for the job. And we want to trim them. So now we got that shape of the Holochord. Just for the fun of it, let's take these, save them. Now I did some without lifters on. So these are for you guys that are lifting with clamps. And I want to take this one because it has these two angles actually, just to create a shop drawing of this one, just to take a look of how does it look when we have these different angles. Does it still follow? Does it still do automatic detailing, measurements and everything? And the answer to that is yes, of course it does. So here you have these recesses, 870 times 112. We have the other one, 870. Number two, sorry, that one was not 870, that was 326. The other one, 870 times 172. That's why it puts the numbers on here. So when we have something the computer is doing automatic, it doesn't want to put anything on top of each other. It puts them out and gives us numbers to look at it, of course. So I know I've been speaking really fast probably to you guys, and in part I apologize for that, but then again, we wouldn't want to just sit around and look what we want to do something. But I want to round the webinar off here with just going into the website here. And if you guys are thinking now, how do you get in touch with us? Of course, you probably have my email or LinkedIn information or some of my colleagues that where you joined us. But otherwise, again, you guys can just go into StruSoft.com. We have different software as well. Right now, we're just talking about the Impact software. Click the Impact software. You will also be able to select and watch a few videos and different things of the software. And you select where you're located. You might be located in Middle East, and you can contact my colleague Peter or me, or you can go, if you're from the UK, you can contact my colleague Paul, of course. But that was basically it, guys. Just a quick go through of a lot of different element types, a lot of different things done. But I think I got to where I wanted to take you guys on this journey. And of course, everyone who's interested, you're very welcome to contact us, and we'll be happy, and I'll be happy to do this same type of thing together with you on a project that is with elements that you are actually making. But basically, that's it for the webinar. And what I'll just end the webinar with just looking if any questions popped in throughout the webinar, and I can see not really any questions to answer pop through here. So basically, I'm guessing that must mean that I answered my own questions for the agenda for the webinar. But great having you guys here, and thank you for following this webinar, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a great afternoon, have a great evening. Bye-bye.